Happy Thursday, right here in Mass listeners. Joining us today is Rick Welch, President and CEO of Spark Technologies. Rick's vast knowledge of technology solutions, management, and business principles has allowed him to lead the professional team at Spark Technologies. When he's not diving into all things IT, Rick is leading vocals and guitar solos for two bands, playing on the ice as a longtime goaltender, golfing, playing tennis, watching movies, trying new tech gadgets, and collecting guitars. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Do you want to start off by sharing with our audience more about yourself and what you do?
I thought you just did all that, but that's okay. So, yeah, I'm the owner of Spark Technologies. We're here in Rockland, Mass. We are a full-fledged IT managed service company, meaning that we basically become the IT department for the companies that we manage and support. I have a great staff here, and we're always excited to help people with their technology and keep their business operating.
And prior to starting Spark Technologies, like what made you want to pursue IT overall as a career? Like I'd love to hear more about how you came across that and kind of what led you to where you are today.
That's a good question. So my degree is actually in healthcare administration. I went to Stonehill with a business minor. When you get out of college, you kind of don't know what you're going to do. My family owned a chain of nursing homes. So I found myself in that business as an assistant administrator and HR director. I did it for about 3 years, and I'll be honest with you, it just wasn't for me. Um, there was an actual project that they gave me, and it was a rollout of a time clock system, and I started getting immersed into how to deploy technology. And this is back in 1991, 92. And I also, this is like when the web started kind of picking up. So I kind of always had like a little Mac Plus computer that I kind of, had games and started writing music software, writing songs and stuff with. And I always had like tinkered around with stuff. I was notorious for like, taking apart my parents' VCR and putting it back together again. And, it usually never worked. But, making models as a kid. So I always kind of had like um, a knack for learning things. And that kind of got me into computers. I was always kind of the go-to at the nursing home when someone had a computer question or something like that to, help them out or fix things. So I kind of enrolled after, a few years in the healthcare industry. I kind of enrolled back into classes, did some night courses in Boston and got my certification through the Microsoft track and became a Microsoft certified engineer. And then I got into web development and graphic design. From there, I started my first company, which was Welnet Technology Solutions. And I had about 20 customers. And it was enough to kind of, keep the lights on and pay my bills. And yeah, I did websites for companies. I mean, this is going back to the days of Mosaic, Netscape. I don't know if you've heard of these things, but I was developing websites back then. And then it got me more into networks and building more complicated systems for companies. And then I landed a job at a company called Advanced Marketing Services. And what they did was they were a software development firm for the real estate industry. They were the first company to build a web-based multiple listing service. So back then, the state of Massachusetts, everything was all DOS-based and it was all character stuff. So there was no pretty pictures or anything like that, like you see now on Realtor.com and all these real estate firms. So we actually were one of the first companies to to develop that technology.
Mm.
We sold the system, and within like 9 months of me joining that firm, we went from 4 guys to 43 people.
Wow.
And I saw the company grow as an early partner. And I was with that company for about 3 years, and I learned a lot. Um, and then the whole Y2K thing happened.
Yeah.
Those I can remember that, and everyone was like, the world's going to end because all the computers are going to stop. Um, so I went back to my family company to help them with that. I'm like, computers are going to be big someday, so let's get ready for this. And they back then, the healthcare company was growing too. And I came in there as the IT director, and I ended up staying there for 21 years
Wow.
as the IT director and the chief technical officer. So I pretty much built that entire network from start to finish to when the company was sold. I remember we started with 40 email addresses, and when I left, it was 1,400.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
watched the whole, part of the whole development of building the whole infrastructure and technology for that company. And it was myself, Paul Drummond, and Pete McDonald, who are still with me now with Spark. So, company was sold back in 2016, and we decided to go off on our own, and that's how we started Spark Technologies.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's quite a story. So we kind of, we're kind of, I look at it as being on the other side of the fence, meaning like I had other companies that helped me support the technology side because we had just so many people to support, um, and I couldn't do it all myself. So now that I'm on the other side, supporting other companies, it's kind of a nice thing. So I've seen it on both sides of the fence. So yeah, so Spark's been in operation for a little over 7.5 years. We're growing. We're up to about 60 companies now, with various entities. So it's almost up to like 125 different locations that we actually support.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's exciting. We love coming to work. We have such a great crew here, and we're kind of like a very tight family.
Yeah, I
So it's
love
nice.
that. And you've accomplished so much in your career being an IT professional. I think one thing that's really interesting, and I'm sure has been a differentiator for you, is the fact that you really got your foot into this career when the whole like .com era was happening. And like you mentioned, when computers were available to the public and the whole Y2K situation that was going
Mm-hmm.
on, it must have been really interesting to be at like the forefront of that and now see how things have changed 23 plus years later.
Yeah, it's probably been longer that I mean, I tell some of the guys here like plug and play, like we didn't have plug and play. Everything is all drivers and floppy disks. No one knew what those were. I actually kept some of the old discs and some of the old CDs, like the AOL install discs. Remember those? I mean, probably don't remember those. All the dial-ups. Oh yeah, I've the old baud modems that we used to install. Um, yeah, it's changed immensely as far as technology, and
Yeah.
that's always up to us to keep up with the latest technology and what's coming down the pike, and we do a very good job at that.
Yeah. And with that, what are your methods for kind of staying in touch with new advancements and things that are coming up that you can then share with your clients to better support them and provide more value to them?
Yeah, so we're lucky we have some great service partners, and we kind of stay with our core services, which kind of fall into three different models. One being or three buckets. We monitor and maintain all the systems for our companies, and then there's the big security piece. That's the tough thing to always keep in track. But the partners that we use and the technology that we use kind of knock it out of the park, especially with some of the new AI technology that we've deployed in the last year, it's been like night and day compared to some of the stuff that we used to see. And then there's the whole help desk piece. So, um, as far as keeping up with new technology, all of our partners send out all the latest stuff. All the guys sign up for different courses to take or different, product announcements going through, whether it be white papers or certain training, a lot of video training. Um, and when we do look at a new application, we would probably look at 12 different vendors that before we actually um, put it into our core stack. Um, so yeah, it's in technology. I mean, it's somewhat the Wild West. There's so many different companies out there, but we know what we are very good at, and we kind of like to stay within that parameter as far as delivering the best services for our customer with products that make sense. So, um, I have some, senior VP guy on my staff and some senior techs, and they kind of take the lead on that stuff as far as, um, you know, dealing with the technology from the end user side and, what works best for us and the client.
Absolutely. And so when you got started, you had worked for your family's business for quite some time before you ended up starting Spark Technology. So I imagine you had a ton of knowledge of entrepreneurship and business ownership through that. But did you find the transition to be challenging at all, going from working for your family's business to now owning and operating your own?
Well, I'll say yes and no. So throughout the years, I've probably started 7 or 8 businesses.
Mm.
On the side, I've had 2 guitar companies. I had the consulting business, like I told you, with Welnet. Um, I had a small little real estate thing. I told you I worked for other companies, so I kind of had a good background. I always kind of wanted to stay busy. Um, so I'll be honest with you. When I started Spark, and I knew I was going to be at the helm here, um, there was a couple nights that I was like, I couldn't sleep. I'd be like,
Yeah.
can I do this? And the responsibility, because when you're the top guy, I've heard this before. When you hire people, have people that work for you, you're not just dealing with them. You're dealing with their families. You're dealing with their livelihood. And that's a lot of responsibility that especially in a startup. I mean,
Mm.
we started with nothing. We started with one customer. And, it was kind of, you sink or swim. And I would say the first 6 to 9 months were rough.
Yeah.
And, we got through them. And once kind of the word got out, and, at the same time, we were kind of like, we have the perfect scenario. We have the perfect um, product, and it's kind of like, but no one knows us. We
Yeah.
were the new company on the block. Even though we were doing what we were doing for years, and we knew we were excellent at it, um, some of the other things as far as starting a business just weren't there yet.
Mm.
So that took a while. We're still always doing it. Um, and it's a fun ride, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, Now that you get more, once you grow and you get more, things in place, more people, um, it's just a great team communication in place. Um, we just strive to be successful, and I think I probably told you this before. Our biggest problem is not enough people know about us, but they will.
Yeah.
So we look
Absolutely.
forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate your transparency about the first 6 to 9 months being difficult, because I feel like entrepreneurship is often glorified, where people tend to talk about and think about all of the great things that come with it, but not kind of mention people going through the trenches and really going through the challenges that come with entrepreneurship. So I think it's definitely important to remember that entrepreneurship definitely has, although a lot of awesome benefits that come from it, a lot of challenges that come with it as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. It's exciting to run your own company, but I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I did not do it alone. I
Mm-hmm.
literally fed my head with anything I could get a hold of. I read tons of books. I listened to tons of podcasts. I still do it. Sales, marketing, business management, all the way to finances. Yeah, I have a very solid background in these areas, but when you're actually doing it, it's like two different things.
Mm.
First thing did was is get a office manager that could do everything from finances to payroll. That was critical. Um, and we knew, as being techs, that we could handle that piece, the service piece, but just to make sure that everything was operating smoothly to actually grow the company. Um, but yeah, entrepreneurship. One of the big things that really helped me a lot was I found a mentor.
Mm.
Um, it was actually a good friend of mine where we became really great friends. And he was the vice president of sales at Pfizer. So he had tons of sales knowledge and tons of business knowledge. And it's true. It's like 9 out of 10 startups fail within the first 3 to 5 years. And I was like, this can't happen. This is our livelihood. Like I said, I got responsibility for two former employees now, working for me. I've been with these guys for almost 17 years. Um, and now back then working for another company, yeah, you always got a paycheck. But when
Yeah.
you work on by yourself, we're like, we gotta make this work.
Yeah. I think you nailed it with the fact that what you mentioned earlier, which I didn't even think about, but it's so true, which is like when you're an entrepreneur, it's not just your employees you worry about, but their families too, and how things in their personal lives can overflow into the business and whatnot. And so at the end of the day, you're not just responsible for your own paycheck, but your employees' paycheck so that they can support their families. And it's so much pressure that just goes into it. I mean, it's great to be able to support people in that aspect, but just like the mental load that comes with knowing that you're responsible for everything can be a lot.
Yeah, and like I said, I knew that very early,
Mm.
and um, to this day, when you bring in someone into, at least Spark, when I even hire somebody, you know, we have a very cool culture here. You kind of have to belong. This is not that corporate America type, you know, strict, stringent place. We want it to be a very friendly atmosphere. I hire young guys that are techs.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I've been to weddings, I've been to births of children of my employees. I've been to parties. I mean, it's kind of the way I wanted it to look. And when I bring or hire people, um, they should understand this is our culture. We're a tight knit group. We communicate with each other on a regular basis. We always get the work done. That's the main part. But we're human, and everyone has outside interest and does other things too. Um, but we get the job done, and the greatest thing as far as being an owner is getting praise from customers and about the good work and the friendliness and you know customer service and it's key, and they get it. We're not an IT company where we're very um, non hands on. Um, so it's being in, everyone knows here that they're interfacing with customers, and it's critical that they understand what we're doing, and they leave, um, with their issue resolved and smile on their face and they're happy. So that
Absolutely.
that to me is like the best satisfaction is being an owner.
Yeah. And when you feel passionate about something, it absolutely shows in the work that you produce and the relationships that you have with your customers because you just feel excited about the work that you do. And back to your point about you're having like a specific culture and a really welcoming and inclusive culture within your company. I mean, I saw that a few days ago when I saw photos and videos of you and your team out for it looked like dinner after work or something like that. And normally people on a Friday or any day after work might say, I just can't wait to get home and leave this place. But to see your employees having fun and laughing and eating and just having great conversations shows that you've built a culture like that and a place that people really want to be around.
Yeah, I'm extremely lucky.
Yeah.
And everyone here knows it's a lifestyle job. It's not a 9 to 5 job. If you're not cut out to, help people off hours and things of that nature, this is not a place for you. Um, like I said, no, there's no punch clock to sign in, but everyone is responsible. They get their work done. Everyone here is full time. They get paid full time. And like you said, yeah, we go out for dinners. We do things all the time. Well, we try to jump into golf tournaments to support our customers when they have charity events and things of that nature. So, um, it's all part of it. So it's like I said, it's a great culture here, and you know, um, it's fun, but it's work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely. And so, since you've had Spark Technologies for a little over 7.5 years now, how has your role transitioned so that you're able to kind of get out of the like quote unquote employee role now into that president and CEO role since you have a great team you can rely on?
Yeah, it's funny because at first, it took me a while to get off the help desk, and I always want to like kind of answer things for people, and the technical side of me would always come out, and I'd always want to help people, but it wasn't until um, one of my top guys shut me out of the system. He's like, "You're done." He's like, "Stop answering this. We got it for you." And that's how it started. And it was like tough. It's like taking away like what you did on a regular basis.
Mm,
Um, but running a business, you're always going to wear many hats. Um, and we have a weekly, sometimes twice a week, staff meeting where we discuss all these things that come up. And I'm usually just jotting down notes to follow up on certain things, whether it be talking with a customer or dealing with an internal issue. Um, but for the most part, we're a very well-oiled engine here. Um, and for me to transition, I would say was pretty easy in a way. But it not much has changed other than the fact I've gotten out of the technical area and I call them the pros deal with it.
yeah.
Um, but now obviously I oversee financing, the marketing pieces, and I was doing almost all the sales before, but we recently hired a director of sales. Um, so we're transitioning, getting even more off my plate. Um, but I always like to keep up with the things that are happening here locally. I do talk to other so-called, we'll call them competitors, but I don't look at them as competitors. We're all kind of in the same space, um, kind of doing the same thing. We do it differently, but it's good to learn from other companies, and I like to do that. I still like to figure out, the latest and greatest, what we can do better, improve on systems. There's always something that comes across my desk.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the life of being a small business owner. The name of the game is just keep growing. If you're going the other way, you're dying. So um, keep things steady, and things pay off when you do things correct.
Yeah.
And the more things you do correct and better, the more people pay attention, and you just get, more work out of it, and the company grows. And I'm like I said, I like to when we do a great job and our efforts show for it, and we have additional, um, money set aside, I obviously give it back to my staff.
Yeah.
So
I love
they
that.
like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to your team, I can imagine that getting stuff off your plate was possible because of the fact that you've hired great people where you don't have to worry about if the work is or isn't going to get done as you would have done it. You know that it's going to get done to your standards, which I think goes to show the very talented and skilled people that you've included as part of Spark Technologies.
Yeah. I mean, with some guys that are still here, started as interns, and they've, furthered their education and got their degrees, and they come right back to Spark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had other guys that come from different walks of life that wanted to get into technology, and or had a somewhat of a technology background, but never worked for a tech company. And we have I think a very good training program. And once they learn the culture here, and once they put their best foot forward, we encourage success within.
Yeah.
And and it shows. You know, um, when even when we, I think we're on our third revision of our website and getting testimonials. He's like, well, can you pick out companies that will give you good reviews? And I'm like, you can call them all. You know,
Yeah. I love that.
so that's a good thing to have. So, like I said, I'm fortunate in that area. Did I answer your
Absolutely.
question?
It sure did.
Okay.
And we were chatting about this before we started recording, but we've also I've mentioned it in your bio at the beginning of the show, but you have so many hobbies and things that you enjoy doing outside of work. And so, how do you balance the two where you can ensure that you still have time for yourself to do the things that you love while still being that business owner?
Oh boy. Well, I always tell people don't try to figure me out because I haven't. Um, so yeah, so I guess I don't even like calling it a job. I call it an adventure. You know, yeah, I run the company here, but I also play in two bands. I play hockey on a regular basis. These are things that I've been doing since I was a little kid, and I haven't stopped. I enjoy it. I think you should have outside interests. Um, I still dabble in some other, business stuff on the side, mostly just for hobbies or fun. Um, I am a avid collector of guitars. I have this weird fetish of color purple, as you can probably see in the background. So my last name is Welch. So back in my high school days, I got made fun of they call me Welch Grape Jam. So the whole purple thing stuck. Um, so all my guitars are purple. I got a lot of purple around. Um, so that's kind of one of those things. But yeah, I enjoy it. I probably drive my wife crazy, but she loves to be part of it too. And it's
Mm,
sometimes it's like a night out and get friends and family involved, and it's a good way to stay in touch too.
yeah.
Because I don't like to be the center of attention, but sometimes when you um, can go out and play music. I think music brings people together. And I've just been doing it for such a long time. It's kind of part of me.
Mm,
But yeah, if I'm not doing stuff around the house, I'm building a pantry right now. I mean, I can go on and on. Um, but I like to stay busy and like to stay active.
yeah.
Um, it's just something that I've always done, and I enjoy it. I'll be honest with you, since my wife and I've never watched so many movies in my life. So that's a new thing for me. Sometimes it's tough for me to sit still, but yeah, I sleep very well at night. Put it that way.
That's good.
So
And I personally feel like, because this is what I noticed with like my hobbies, is that when I allow myself to be creative in other ways, I feel like it fuels my creativity or ideas for my business. Where if you're trying to actively think of ideas for your business, they likely won't come to you. But when you're off doing something completely unrelated and you're giving your mind or your body the opportunity to unwind and not think about that stuff, that's when all of the good stuff happens. And when you have all of these great ideas and energy to go back to your work and incorporate it that way.
Yeah, I was just on we went on vacation a couple weeks ago and started getting like into yoga and things of that nature. And just kind of like just calming. I love um, where you can just kind of have a timeout.
Mm.
But as soon as like I get in my car, I have like a half hour commute. I'm listening to business podcasts. I'm listening to entrepreneur podcasts. I'm getting like excited before I walk into the office, and then it gives me a ton of ideas. Um, I'm not recreating the wheel. I know there's other people that have done this before, and I just want to be part of that and do maybe my version.
Mm.
But um, I think the successful people play the game they that they want to play.
Yeah.
um so like I said, like when I leave here I could be going to a gig or playing in front of people. It's just I just like um just doing things, and it's kind of simple, like making people like happy, and it kind of like brings it all together. um so I think everyone should have some sort of outside passion to do,
Absolutely.
and not deal with the daily grind, and you know um just be more. People that know me, I'm pretty laid back to somewhat, and they're like, but you're a singer in a band and you play guitar, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I've toured, the country. I've done stuff that most people don't do, but I don't want to be that
Yeah.
person that looks back and says, "Well, I didn't do that." You know, um, and that's why I think like everyone should, um, you know, just there's so many things out there to do,
Yeah.
and they should find what they want to do and embrace it. If you want to run a business, run a business. If it's not for you, do something else. I just, I had an opportunity and I took it. So, and I've had um, quite a history of we'll call opportunities, and it kind of morphed me to what I am.
Yeah.
So, I'm a father. I children, they're all doing exceptionally well, and I think that's because people learn from others, and
Definitely.
I'm happy that they're happy and everyone's doing well, and and when things are going well, good things happen.
Yep. You nailed it. And speaking
Pretty
of good
simple.
things happening, what would you say is coming up for Spark Technologies? Like within the next year, 5 years, where do you see the company going?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a business plan. Um, and I would say, mine's out to the next 7 to 10 years. But in short term, we stay that steady path. We have continued growth. We've been growing about between 8 to 13% a year. I'm always trying to challenge myself and the team, and we can probably move beyond that. You know, I believe slow and steady wins the race. These companies that just want to like cash in right away, and unfortunately, in our industry, you see a lot of that. There's a lot of private equity out there that are buying companies and consolidations and takeovers and acquisitions. This is not uncommon to the tech industry. It happens daily. I get every email you can imagine about this stuff. That's not our course. Our course is slow and steady. Um, continue building the company. Um, I think that we could probably double in size within the next few years. I think that's definitely possible. I think we're pretty much here on the South Shore of Mass. We're actually one of the largest IT companies right now, just on what we have going on. And we're just going to continue in the success. Um, I know just by my staff right here, they'll move up the chain, and new people will come in, and they'll be responsible for them, and it's a great thing to promote within and see people, and I've you know everyone here, at least my top guys now, we were all doing the same fixing the stuff before, and now they're in management roles. So
Yeah.
um, that's the kind of the evolution of Spark. Um, continued growth, continued success, be a positive entity business in the community, um, and and sharing the success. That's really the kind of the basic roadmap right now.
Yeah, I love that. Having grown so much in the past 7.5 years, like, do you find yourself being conscious of all that you've done? Like for me, for example, I feel like I struggle to kind of look back and see how far I've come. I'm always like, what's next, or what am I not doing that I should be doing? Like, do you find that you take the time to appreciate all that you've accomplished in that time, or do you kind of struggle with always looking at what's ahead and thinking about what you're not doing, if that makes sense?
You'd probably be best if you talk to my wife on that one, because it's funny you say that. So I mean, that's like almost like saying, like, I wish I invested in Amazon, back when they started. And
Yeah.
if I did that, I'd be sitting somewhere else, probably under a palm tree. But I think yeah, I'm not one to like pat myself on my back, as far as like, but some days I get a little bit hard on myself because I always like the challenge.
Yeah.
And it probably like drives my wife crazy, only because she sees it as like, wow, you started with 3 people, you're now up to 11. You started with one company. Within the first year, you had six, and it just kept on growing and growing. And you didn't give up, you didn't stop. There's no debt anymore. You kind of achieved all these things. But I'm like, but it's never good enough. I just want to keep going. Um, I think everyone has different versions of success. Um, mine is, like I said, when I can finally get to the point where I feel like, or I have to retire or something to that point. I don't even know if I'll ever retire, you say that, but I'll probably enjoy or travel more often.
Yeah.
And I think when you get to a really good place, and you'll know when you're there, and everything is functioning the way you kind of built it, I think that's when I know like I've achieved something really great. There's so many companies to model after, and I feel like what we're doing here is good. But yeah, I mean, the companies that are these big mega companies, and maybe that's someone's success that's not mine. I kind of like playing in the non-corporate world, um, because it's just a little bit closer.
Hmm.
You just get a little bit, more involved in your business,
Yeah.
more involved in the people, um, and that's what I enjoy. We have, we have gatherings. Everyone's been to my house. Just I like that lean, mean, and proud feeling. So, um, but yeah, I know eventually to get to certain revenue marks and things like that. I mean, yeah, of course we'll grow, but be more happy people here.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of things you enjoy, one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is what their favorite local businesses are to support. And so I'd love to hear places that you frequent or places that you love to go to and support anywhere in Massachusetts.
Oh boy, I know you asked me this, but I didn't think about it. Um, yeah, I mean, I like being close to home, and there's a lot of great um, programs and things in this nature. Just supporting, whether it be local restaurants or sports teams or venues. Um, when it comes to like sponsoring or doing things where you want to put your money, you always want to have it go to a good cause. We do things for like, Father Bills or Friendship Home is one of our companies that we support. Um, there's a plenty of local things, the food bank that we support. Um, I mean, I could, that is a very tough question. Um, it's only because like a lot of these, like, you know, my wife loves to go out and, um, go to different restaurants and things like that. And I'm like, being in the restaurant business is probably the toughest business to run.
I
And
imagine.
yeah, it's always say if you don't sell it, you smell it. So um, I couldn't imagine being in that business. I think I'm lucky that I actually am in a good flourishing type sector of business. Um, but yeah, one of the other things I got involved recently through my wife is the Kids Chance program, um, which I've done a number of donations through the last couple of years. If you're familiar with that cause, um, that is for children of parents that either have been injured on the job or death or those situations. It actually sets up funds for them so they can go to
Oh,
college.
wow. That's awesome.
So yeah, so that's a great cause, Kids Chance, and we're part of the Kids Chance of Massachusetts. So um, I think every child should have the opportunity to further their education. Um, that's a great one that we sponsored in the last couple of years. And yeah, what was the question again?
Favorite local businesses to support.
Favorite local businesses to support. Yeah, and like I said, we do a lot with the chambers here,
Yes.
the South Shore Chamber, or the Plymouth Chamber that we're both members of. And we do a lot of sponsorships. We just did the sponsorship for the Best of the South Shore um, that we did, and you know, um, I'll tell you, there's so many needy type organizations out there that definitely need money. I wish I could support them all, um, but just a little bit helps, and things that we do for with a food drive at Christmas time and Thanksgiving, things of that nature. So we always, look to see what we can do as well.
Yeah.
So, and like even through my music stuff, we support, you know, uh, it's simple as bartenders and waitresses. I mean, even one of my bands, I find it funny that I, do well running my own business, but when people give you tips for playing, and we give the money back to the waitresses and bartenders because they're
Oh, I
they're
love
they're
that.
working they're working really hard. So that's something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah,
Rick, this has been such an awesome episode, and I've really appreciated to have the opportunity to share all that you do with your several businesses and multiple hobbies with our audience. And now I'd love if you could share where our listeners can find you online in case they'd like to connect with you further.
yeah. We're at Spark Technologies. It's www.spark Spark Tech TechLLC.com is our website. Or you can always email at info@sparktechllc.com. You can Google us. I'm sure it will pop up. Um, and we're right here in Rocco, Mass, 1050 Hingham Street, right across the street from the Home Depot here, exit 3. Easy to find. Um, and like I said, we're always looking to help people out, especially with their business and their technology needs. And yeah, and thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure, Rick. And I will put all of your links and how people can find you in the show notes. That way people can click through and connect with you from there. But thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.